Hey, I'm back. I've slightly changing the format because I find that my last video was a bit forced. Like I kind of forced myself to record it, and the inspiration wasn't really there. So instead, I'm gonna make it a bit not as daily maybe, but it's gonna be more when the inspiration strikes, and I'm just gonna set like 3 videos per week instead. And might be more, but minimum. Okay, so the topic I wanted to talk about today is kind of like I've been thinking about it for a while because our subconsciousness is a very interesting beast. That's where all our like primal fears and all these things, they are all there. All the childhood traumas, they're all in your subconsciousness. At the same time, they have things like the flow state, where you see it with the musicians. They just go and they make music and they forget about everything. They just go in the flow. Or people who do exercises, they at some point you get into the state where you forget that you're doing exercise and you just there's no effort there, nothing. You're just flowing. It's no effort. There's no time, and that's subconsciousness too. So how can it be that there's same kind of part of our brain gives such different responses? So I like to think of subconsciousness as multiple levels, and I think it was the cartoon called The Groots, which kind of for me perfectly illustrated it. So in The Groots, it's like a family of ancient people in the Stone Age, and they have these archetypes of a man who's all about protecting the family, and part of protecting the family is not letting them out of the cave, because I think there was a collapse or ice age happened and they all got scared, so he locked everyone in this cave and he's I'm the man, I'm gonna protect it. So as a man, he protected everyone by not letting anyone to see what's beyond the cave, because scary creatures and things like this, right? So that's the first level. This is the fear-based level where, because we want to protect, we choose not to face the fear. We choose to just sit there and, hey guys, thanks for joining. We choose not to face the fear. We choose to sit in the cave instead. So there was a second archetype in this movie. And it was a small girl. She's probably around 11 or something like that. So she wants to explore beyond the cave. And she sometimes tries to sneak out. But she's also very aware of the monsters and the fears, which her father taught her about. So she's kind of curious, but she doesn't have enough courage to just go and explore yet. But she's curious what's outside. She's but it's all stuff outside I want to see. I'm kind of want to explore. So that is the second level of subconsciousness. And in the third level, and it's kind of strange, funny that they go other way around. The third level is a very small kid, and he's just started walking. So I don't know, 1-2 years old probably. And for kid, it's not just curiosity. For kid, it's wow, I want to see what it is. So he's curious, and he's also not afraid to go and see. Then he sneaks behind the dad and just goes and go see beyond the cave, and then he just stands there, wow, that's amazing. How beautiful is the world outside the cave, and why our dad was forcing us to sit in the cave. So the small kid, he doesn't have all these fears yet. The bigger kid, they have some fears projected by already, and told the stories about the crazy monsters and all the stuff. And the dad is the one who has the most fear, because they're this is it's danger. I should protect my family. I should stay in the cave and don't leave the cave. So those levels, they come up in various aspects. They come up in a relationship or in pretty much anything you do. So when you start doing something which challenges you, first thing come up is the fear. You start being like, oh, I don't know, I'm not really good at dancing. Maybe I shouldn't even try. That's the fear response. So then you try, and it kind of was like, okay, it was not as scary as I thought. It was challenging, but I'm kind of curious what's next. So you start doing more of this, and then you reach the stage 3 where you open up and you just start flowing there, and you go and you do the things with passion and without thinking about the fears which came up in the first place. But to go through the stages of defeating those fears and being able to reach the flow, it's one of the hardest things to do. And I'm like facing it now with, I'm doing voice activation training, which is basically unlocking your voice and teaching you how do you express yourself, like how, in singing, for example, without feeling self-judgment. And self-judgment is the fear, right? It's the fear that like, oh, I'm not good enough, especially when you compare yourself to like professional singers, or even like the people who just go like on voice and stuff like this, you know? You'll be like, no, I should not be singing because it's a fear, right? So then I would not try. So now I'm like forcing myself to like, okay, I know this fear's there, but let's get to the point where I get curious, because this is where it's like, okay, so I see it starting to developing, and it's actually interesting, and now I'm just waiting till like it develops to the level of like, hey, I'm just gonna flow with it and don't think about the fears. The further you go from the first level, the less fears worries you, and unfortunately, it's a spiral. So as you reach certain level and you're flowing and it's all like nice and perfect, then you hit the point where the fear is coming up again, because you start transitioning to. So let's say you've been singing like on a like casual stage for yourself, and then you go and you sing in front of other people. Boom, you have again all these fears coming back at you, because now you're doing something different. You're like exposing yourself publicly. And it's a continuous process of like going through these levels and getting to the flow where you just like, don't worry. You bring yourself there with curiosity, and then you fly there with the flow. So yeah, that's the theory I made up. I don't know, is it actually based on something? I might have stole it from someone. I haven't read this anywhere yet, so I think it might be actually legitimately something I have dreamed up. Yeah, so if it resonates with you, share on which, like, where do you go like transitioning to the next level. Because remember, it's always there. You can always go beyond